I finally done it. I managed to get on Master Duel to Master 1, and not with the best deck. Snake Eyes, Telements, Branded, Labyrinth. No, I did it with the one and only. Well, I can't say one and only since it's mixed with another deck. However, I can say majority. Battlin Boxers / Kashtira. And oh boy, this was a hard one. I managed to get to the Master 1 rank on the 29th, giving me 1 day before the end of season. And oh man, this was a grind, an insane grind, and so many times throughout the weeks I was changing cards left and right, testing what would be better, what's more consistent, what can get this deck to Master 1. And honestly, I would say I'm 95% happy with this build. Of course, there could be a few differences in the extra deck and even in the main deck, which I'll get to, but I am happy. It gets me so many wins. I like to call it anti-meta Battlin Boxers, because basically that's what Kashtira are. I used to find that deck so annoying, but ever since I realized that they basically hurt the meta decks, even though they are meta, but they're not the #1 meta, I like to use them because it's free special summonings, and that's one of the issues with Battlin Boxers with their normal summons. I pretty much used this deck from all of Diamond until Master 1. There were times when I would switch decks for fun, just to have a little break from this deck, but one, I never ranked up with any other deck, only Battlin Boxers, and two, it was usually only a few games on stream. So I would say 90 to 95% of the time I was using this deck. So like I do for my deck profiles, first I'm going to go through the deck list, explaining why I'm using certain cards, why is that ratio, and so on. Then I'll go through the pros and cons, telling you what's the best part about this deck and what's the worst. And lastly, I mean, it's only really one combo, but it's the best combo in this deck, and it's gonna look kind of mediocre, but trust me, it's very powerful. It's a very easy deck to use, honestly. If you already have Kashtira cards and you love Battlin Boxers like myself, I'm a massive boxing fan and UFC. Any deck that has a fighting style, I have to use it. I've loved Battlin Boxers since they first got released back in, I don't know, 2010 or whatever. I was using them back in those days against Mermails. Oh boy, that was a tough one. So as soon as this came to the game, I had to get this deck into Master. And not just Master 5 or Master 4, but Master 1. I had to. It was my goal for this month. And before anyone says it, oh, but it's not pure Battlin Boxers. Again, I'll get to that when I get to the pros and cons. There's a reason why I'm mixing them with Kashtira. Not just because of the anti-meta stuff. Before I begin the deck list, if you are new to my channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button to be up to date with all my content, like deck profiles, or to be updated when I live stream. Now, with that being said, let's finally get on with the deck profile. 3 Maxi, don't need to explain, it's Maxi, it's a must. As much as this pains me, and I would love this card to get banned, it's a must. You have to play 3. It's the most powerful hand trap in the game. 3 Ash, it really can stop so many decks from special summoning from the deck or adding. Definitely a 3. Now, Go Spell. This is one of those cards where you don't have to play. I literally had 2 spaces in this deck, or 3. I'll get to the third one later. Originally, this used to be a second Sparer, and the Go Spell changed so much. At one time it was Veiler, one time it was Nibiru, one time it was Triple Tactics. Basically, these 2 can be anything you really want. Like what you feel would suit the meta better. You know, I don't like playing Nibiru just because Snake Eyes can play around it so much easier, and even when you Nibiru them, they still can make plays. Or if you're playing Labyrinth or some trap deck, Nibiru's dead, so I kind of don't like playing it. But there are still a lot of rogue decks and tier 2, tier 3 that will be hurt by Nibiru, so you could play 1 or 2. You can do it for Veilers or 2 triple attacks. It's really up to you. That's why I said in the beginning of this video that I'm 95% happy with this deck list, and these are 2 cards you can easily switch out. These aren't a must at all. I just threw them in there again because I'm still testing this deck. You know, there's still things you can change, and these are 2 of them. I probably at this point now would change them to 2 Veilers. I think Veiler's just a very strong card right now. 1 Sparer. When I first made this deck, I had 3. Then I went down to 2, and now I'm at 1. I don't really like this card going second, unless I'm going into Exciton Knight. I've done it so many times, I love it. But really, you don't want to have him in your starting hand. I like to just either search him, or if you do start with him and you got like Ashed or Impermed your Uppercutter, you can then just special summon your Sparer. The only time I'd search Sparer is, yes, if I was going second and I had to go into Exciton Knight, or if I went first and I had no other card to go into a rank 4. so I would need to use Uppercutter to search Spara. You would think that just skipping your battle phase is okay, but no, it actually isn't. It gets annoying, especially when you're going to go into someone like Zeus, and you can't because Spara stops you from attacking. So I felt 1 is fine, but you could bring that up to 2 and remove one of the ghost spells. 1 Rise Heart, part of the Kashtira package. I'll talk more about that when I get to the Kashtira cards. 3 Uppercutter, this is the main card. It searches your counter traps or searches any other Battlin Boxer card. I love seeing this in my starting hand. Like when I see it, I'm like, cool, I at least can make King Dempsey or have my counter traps. 3 Chief Second, again another important card. Helps go into like Excite on Night or any XYZ because you can normal summon again. Usually Uppercutter without activating an effect, so can play around cards like Fenrir. These 2 cards, I love to open them up. If I can open up these 2 together, solid. And what I do love is it does protect you from battle. So if you do have a King Dempsey and a Fenrir, which this happens so many times, and you have Chief Second in your hand, most of the time your opponent will either summon their Diablo Style or their own Kashtira card and just try and attack over your Fenrir or your King Dempsey, and then boom, Chief Second, they get negated, banished until the end of the turn. And so many players just quit after that because they're like, oh shit, now I'm just done. So I love Chief Second, it's a very good card. And 1 Promoter, which is crazy because Promoter, when you read his effects, sounds amazing. Special summon from hand, special summon from deck, 2 Battlin Boxers. But honestly, I don't like him. And it's sad because if it was a pure Battlin Boxer build, he's amazing. But there's just not enough powerful Battlin Boxer cards to make it worth being locked into Battlin Boxers. That's his biggest negative. You're locked into Battlin Boxers. It sucks because if you special summon any other non-Battlin Boxer monsters, he's useless. And if you use his effect because you had to special summon, that's it. You have to stick to Battlin Boxers, and it's just a pain. Sadly, I was actually considering dropping him to just like another Spara or Glassjaw, but I've kept him for now because he can be a good follow-up turn. But sadly, just being locked into Battlin Boxers is just, it's not good. Whenever they decide to release a new XYZ that's actually good, that has like a pop effect or a negating effect, then he will be way better. So that's it pretty much for the Battlin Boxer monster cards. 8 Battlin Boxer monster cards in total. 2 Shifters. I love this card. I mean, this deck can easily play it. It can sometimes stop you from using, for example, Flamvel Counter, since you can't really get Uppercutter into the grave, but then you can then just search out Chief Second instead. I would rather get Shifter off than get a Flamvel Counter, you know. Shifter really ends turns, especially if you're going against the meta decks. That's why I call it anti-meta Battlin Boxers. This card is so powerful. Now the Kashtira Monster package. So the 1 Fenrir, since he's only at 1, 2 Unicorn, since he's at 2, 1 Ogre, and 1 Rise Heart. I much prefer opening up a Fenrir than a Unicorn. If you do open up Unicorn and you don't open up with Kashtira Theosis, this is what you usually have to search, because the idea is to basically get Fenrir on the field, search Rise Heart, special summon Rise Heart, and then normal summon Uppercutter, get your search, and then go into King Dempsey and get another search. So through 2 cards, basically Fenrir and Uppercutter, you get 2 counters and a Fenrir. That's pretty powerful again for 2 cards. It sounds like, oh, only 3 interruptions is not that good, but trust me, the fact that they're 2 counter traps, so the fact that your opponent can't chain to prevent the negation is insane. The only reason why I don't really like open up Unicorn over Fenrir, if you open up Unicorn and you have to get Theosis, you play into Nibiru, while if you open up Fenrir and the Uppercutter, it's only 4. And I got the Ogre, I only added him about 2 weeks ago. It was just to get another special summon. Now for the spells, reinforcement of the army, Puff Prosperity. Sometimes this is a bit annoying because I banished the wrong cards and like, shit, I could have used that. It's still a good card. You do want to at least open up your Fenrir or Uppercutter, so this can help you. 1 Theosis, 2 Durandal. This works really well with this deck. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I got Ogre. If you got any Kashtira card apart from Rise Heart, special summon them, then use Durandal, and then you can get Uppercutter. Or if you can't really get any of the Battlin Boxers, you can then just search out Rise Heart and then do some Kashtira plays. 1 Pressured Planet, 1 Birth, you don't need 2, you don't want it to break, so just 1 to get searched by Unicorn, and 2 Cooled Buys and the Cross Out, protect from those hand traps. 1 Evenly, this is one of those cards like Ghost Spell where you can switch this out. The reason I have Evenly is because I go up against Labyrinth and I just feel like I lose. Labyrinth is a hard matchup for this deck because you can only stop one of their traps with Flamvell Counter, but you can't even stop them in the grave. It's tough. It's an extremely hard matchup, and stun decks. So evenly just helps. Bro, I had a match where I was facing Labyrinth. They set 3, had I think one of the Labyrinth monsters on the field with their field spell, evenly matched, and they just surrendered straight away. They quit. So evenly can come on clutch, and it's only one, so you're unlikely if you go first to draw it. Of course it can happen, but it's unlikely. And if you go second, you get 6 cards, and if you had Path of Prosperity, you can hopefully get evenly as one of those choices. 3 Imperm, pretty much like Ash right now, is so powerful, negating a monster effect, especially like Snake Eyes Ash, and it can't be called by, which is amazing. 1 Flamvell Counter and 1 Cross Counter. Your search targets with Uppercut and King Dempsey, amazing counter traps. I just love the fact that your opponent can't respond unless they have red reboot, and I have been red rebooted once. I couldn't believe it. It was from a Snake Eyes player. I didn't even know some people play that. But okay, the Kashtira preparations, trap to be searched by Ogre. So that's the main deck, playing 13 hand traps and, well, 14 going second cards, basically. Now the extra deck, Utopic package with Gaga Magician, you know, just in case, but usually I banish these with Prosperity. The OG lead yoke, it can come in handy at times. If they have like a Promethean Princess, you can go into this and boom, they can't destroy you. Excitonite, I love this card in this deck. It's saved me so many times. If you open Chief second, go into Uppercutter. If you can't use Uppercutter's effect because they have Kashtira, fine, go into Excitonite, blow up the field, attack, you do no damage because of Excitonite, but then you can go into Zeus, and that's it. Basically, it's like 2 board wipes. I love that. Battlin Boxer Nova, really good target for cross counter, because when you use King Dempsey's effect to be untargetable, when you use a cross counter, you go into Nova, you can't be targeted, and when they destroy you, you can special summon usually Uppercutter from the grave, and then you get a search. 1 Baguska, the best for stalling games. 1 Heroic Champion. This is basically when your opponent has a strong ass monster in the field and you just can't be over it. Usually they pay the 500 life points if you're going for game. 2 King Dempsey. Don't think you need 3. Honestly, 2's enough. I wish he had more attack. Honestly, 2,300 is trash. The fact that they could just special summon Fenrir and just attack over it, or Diablo Star, it sucks. I don't know why. As a boxing deck, they only gave 2,300 attack. That should have at least been like 2,500. 1 Battlin Boxer Kaiser, the biggest disappointment, because I love the artwork of this card. I love the idea of the card, but I just feel like sometimes Konami make these decks purposely weak. I mean, 1, why does it have to have 3 level 5 monsters? Why couldn't it just been 2? Or why couldn't it just been 1 material instead of 2? You know, because then you could have used it at least twice. Or at least make it that it's not just inherent special summons, that it could be effects as well. It's like they made 3 cons for this card. Any of those differences would have been a big difference. It's disappointing, like, because as I told you, I'm a big fan of Battlin Boxers. I love it. I love the theme. It pains me that it's not as powerful as it could have been. 1 Big Eye, it can come in handy, especially if your opponent's also having a Kashtira card. You can just steal them, and then now you can search. 1 Shangri, 1 Arise Heart, amazing card. Dark Law on steroids, I guess, and Zeus, the GOAT of XYZ cards. That is the deck profile. Now let me get on with the pros and cons. And you know what, this time I'm actually going to start with the cons, because I think this deck is actually amazing. So I'd rather start with the cons and then explain why it's actually really good. Alright, so the cons. This is going to sound weird, but it's true. This deck can struggle with high attacking monsters. As soon as my opponent summons like a 3,000 attack monster, it actually gets a bit tough to get over that. Just that. Again, because if you look at their monsters, apart from Heroic Champion, like imagine they impermed or veilered you. Now that's it. You've just wasted it on a useless XYZ. But everything else is not strong. You'd have to basically hope you have Fenrir, attack, and then you can banish, and hope that goes through. If not, if you have no access to Fenrir, then your only other out is Champion. It's actually pretty annoying at times. Doesn't obviously happen that many times, but it can. For example, Flamberge, 3,000 attack. It's a bit of a pain at times. Another con, I'm gonna be honest, if you only open up the Battlin Boxer package, it's a very mediocre end board. You basically just get 2 counter traps, and you have to hope that whatever else is in your hand are powerful hand traps, like if you had a Maxi and Ash, or Ash and Imperm kind of thing. But if you open up cards that won't help you, like Birth. It's gonna be tough to survive the turn unless your opponent didn't open up great as well. What I love about the deck is you can either play the Battlin Boxer package, the Kashtira package, or both combined, which is my favorite part of it. If you do just the Kashtira package, it's fine. You know, you could still end with Fenrir, Unicorn, and your trap and spell, or go into Riser or whatever. You know, you got a lot more plays. But with just the Battlin Boxers, it's just it can be broken quite easily. Especially if they just do what I said before: summon Diablo Star, attack over Dempsey, and as it, your counter trap's useless. And now, probably the biggest con, and it's the reason why I added the Kashtira cards, the Battlin Boxer cards themselves rely on their normal summon. Let's say if you don't open up Chief Second or Sparrow and you have to normal summon up a card that gets negated, your turn's pretty much over. You have to hope you get a Kashtira card. If not, one normal summon gets negated, you're done. If you have Chief Second Uppercutter, you don't usually get negated for your Chief Second, but there could be a time where you normal summon Chief Second and you have to normal summon your Uppercutter. Maybe your opponent pops Chief Second or negates him. Again, your turn could be done. It really relies on that normal summon. And that's why I added the Kashtira cards, because every time my normal summon somehow got interrupted, it felt like I couldn't do nothing else. So when I was looking at Kashtira, I was like, well, they all special summon, and they're very good at baiting out hand traps. So that's why I added them in. They help protect my normal summons a lot more. Oh, I guess this one is debatable. Some will say it's not good enough, some will say it is, like myself, but I'm gonna still say it because I can understand why. The best end board you can get is either Unicorn, so banish from extra deck, a Fenrir, banish face down on the field, and then the 2 counter traps. I'm not gonna rely on hand traps because that's always RNG, you don't know. So let's just say what you can guarantee have: Unicorn, Fenrir, and 2 counters. If your opponent doesn't care about extra deck, then Unicorn's out. So it could just be 3 interruptions. Again, they are powerful. 2 counters and a banish face down. They are extremely powerful game-winning effects. You know, if your opponent is playing Snake Eyes and a normal summon Ash, you could wait and use Fenrir, or you could use your counter trap and they can't do anything to stop it. But there has been times when the Snake Eyes player just opens up so much follow-ups, like a Diablo Star, and then they've already got the Snake Eyes card that can, you know, you send 1 monster and then you can special summon the level 1 from the deck. If they open up multiple follow-ups, all they have to do is play through 3, and they can pretty much get game from there. As much as they are 3 powerful interruptions, it's only 3. Your opponent's going to start with 6 cards, and your 3 interruptions have to kind of stop those 6 cards. I mean, this one could also be a con, but at the same time, this is why I play so many hand traps. It's not as good going second, especially if you don't open up Chief Second, because if you do have to rely on uppercut as normal summon and it gets negated since you're going second, your opponents most likely have something that's dead. And if you don't open up Kashtira, again, you could be dead. But that is the reason why we play so many hand traps. And now we're getting on to the pros. For the first one, as you can see, 13 hand traps. Even if you say Ghost Spells, 2 Veilers, you know, like look at that: 3 Maxi, 3 Ash, 2 whatever other hand trap, 2 Shifter, 3 Imperms, and then if you're going second, evenly, if you are playing a trap deck or Snake Eyes have so many cards on the field, you get to play all these hand traps and your deck is still very consistent. That's another pro. The deck is actually consistent because technically, even though these 1-card starters might not be the greatest end board, it still counts as a 1-card starter because you can at least have something on the field. You have 3 uppercutters, Rotor, that's 4, Fenrir, that's 5. You have 2 unicorns, that's 7. Path of Prosperity can lead into one of those 7 cards, but then it might not. So let's say 7.5, and then Durandal. I mean, as long as you have a monster on the field, like a Kashtira card or a Chief Second, I guess you could give them all half each as well. So that's like 8.5, and then the field for Kashtira, so that's like 9.5. You could argue 9.5, 10 1-card starters. Of course, it's not going to have as many 1-card starters as the top decks, like the Snake Eyes or the Super Heavy Samurais. Because remember, at the end of the day, this is still a rogue deck. Kashtira are roughly, some say tier 3. I mean, some say tier 2, but it can't be, in my opinion, because, yeah, if you're mixing it with another deck, you can make it tier 2. But if you're saying pure Kashtira, it has to be at max tier 3, because half their cards are banned. I mean, half their cards are limited. I mean, Fenrir at 1 and Unicorn at 2. So, yeah, as a pure deck, it can't be more than tier 3, in my opinion. Too many cards to hit, so you usually mix it with so much stuff. But then, obviously, Battlin Boxers are extremely rogue deck, like extremely. So, you balance them together, you get a good, very powerful rogue deck. So having 9, 10 1-card starters is actually very good for a rogue deck. Again, they're not all the best 1-card starters. Like if you just have uppercut and that's it, and a bunch of hand traps, you can still end the board with 1 counter trap, but then at least you have a bunch of hand traps for your opponent's turn. Another pro, it can play through so many hand traps. If your opponent maxes you after you've special summoned a Kashtira card, the most you can give them is 2 draws. So you special summon a Rise Heart, normal summon Uppercutter, then go into King Dempsey. So that's 2 draws. Or if you're lucky, you use your Fenrir. And if you have Chief Second, so you normal your Chief Second, you normal your Uppercutter, then you go into King Dempsey, so they only get another 1 draw. That's if they don't maxi you before you special summon your Kashtira card. So it actually can play through maxi quite good. You know, the most they can get is 1 or 2 draws. Can play through Ashes and Impums because, again, if you do open up with a Chief Second and then you normal summon Uppercutter and they Impum that, you can still go into King Dempsey and get another search. You might special summon Unicorn, try to search out the card, they might Impum or Ash you there. If they don't, you get Theosis, you use Theosis, they might Ash you there. Cool, then you can just normal summon Uppercutter and then start your plays there. You can play through a good amount of hand traps, especially Nibiru. You can easily make that powerful board with just 4 summons, and that's why I've been Nibiru'd so many times, because I sometimes just like to overextend. But yeah, I've learned my lesson many times, so as soon as I can, if I can stop at the 4th summon, I will stop. So yeah, I think that's a very good pro, because everyone's playing many hand traps right now. So the fact that you can play through potentially multiple hand traps, again, depending on what your opening hand is great, because these are some of the most powerful hand traps. So the fact that you can play over them is all good. And the last big pro I would say is that it's actually an easy deck to use. It's very simple. There's nothing crazy about it. The only plays that you have to do is sometimes when you have to try and outplay or bait your opponent. But in terms of the combos itself, it's very simple. So if you already have Kashtira cards and you want to play a Kashtira variant, go for Battlin Boxer version, because I honestly do believe this is one of the best Kashtira variants. Of course, if you're going to compare it to the Snake Eyes or Telements, who are like the top tier decks in the game, of course it's not that level. But for Kashtira with a rogue deck, I honestly could see this as the best version for Kashtira, purely because one of the biggest problems for Kashtira, even at their best, was a single Raigeki could ruin their board, or Book of Eclipse could ruin it. Destruction cards, you know, you can, I mean, my Exciton Knight has ended Kashtira cards so many times, it's funny. But what Battlin Boxer does, because it searches out the counter traps, it helps you from protection. So your opponent can't just use a Raigeki, because then boom, Flamvell counter. They can't just use Evenly Matched, because boom, counter. They can't use their Exciton Knight or Zeus, because boom, counter. Your board is going to be much harder to be broken now, especially the Kashtira side, because of your Battlin Boxers. And that's what was always missing from Kashtira. They were so powerful and they can make an Ariser and all that stuff and hurt your opponent, but a single Imperm could stop their Ariser and then your opponent can just play. Or as I said, Raigeki, Lightning Storm, boom, Kashtira is dead. With the Battlin Boxers, the Flamvell counter actually helps so much. So yeah, I genuinely think this is a very good partnership deck. They work together so well. As I said, Fenrir can search out Rise Heart, that can then help go into King Dempsey. Battlin Boxers can search out the counter traps to help protect your board. It's honestly a very solid deck. I mean, I got to Master 1 with it, so clearly shows that it is powerful rogue deck. So that's the deck list and the pros and cons. Let me show you. I mean, I don't really have to, but I'm going to just show you anyway. The one powerful best field in my opinion with Battlin Boxers. And then we're done. Alright, so this isn't the playing safe from Nibiru version, but technically I can just explain that version with this hand as well. So of course, let's just search out Uppercutter. So special summon Unicorn. A great time to be baiting with an Imperm, Veiler, Ash. If they don't have it, cool, get Theosis. Now use Theosis to get Fenrir. Fenrir gets Rise Heart. Special summon Rise Heart. See, some people might just say, oh, why don't you go into a Rise Heart now? The problem is, yes, even though it's a very powerful monster, he's a Dark Claw on steroids, if your opponent has a single Imperm, that's it, you're done. So I much prefer this play. So look, you get the search, Flamvell counter, go into King Dempsey, and then you get your next counter. Boom. I prefer this over having one Arise Heart because I get 2 counters and I get a face down banish and I get an extra deck banish. Now this honestly was a cracked hand. I mean, the fact that I had Maxi, Shift and Imperm, it was wow. Like, this was insanely powerful. Of course, it's not going to open up like this all the time. But yeah, this to me would feel like I've guaranteed one. Unless they had Nibiru and they Nibiru me right now. Then I'm screwed. The only difference in why I prefer opening with Fenrir is I don't play into Nibiru. So if that Unicorn was instead the field or Fenrir, you do the exact same play, but instead you only summon 4 times instead of the 5. That's how simple this powerful end board is. This is the ultimate field when you can get Unicorn and Fenrir. The safe field is just with Fenrir. There you have it, my Battlin Boxer Kashtira deck. I love this deck. As I said, the fact that I get to play Battlin Boxers, even though it's not pure, which is sad, but at least I get to play some of them. Makes me happy. I love the theme. And I like Kashtira cards since they are anti-meta. I would recommend it to anyone if you already have the Kashtira cards. The Battlin Boxers are pretty cheap. And especially if you love boxing as well. You have to go for it. I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. If you did, I would appreciate a thumbs up. And as I said in the beginning of the video, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Now, with that being said, I already won the World Championship with this deck. It's time to find a new challenger. So who would that be? Until next time, Slauzer is out.